Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is AndresRestart, and it appears that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been leaked. We have images, we have specs, and we even have some corroboration. This seems like it may be legitimate, it's causing quite a stir throughout the internet, and it definitely has me thinking, boy, Nintendo really should have revealed this console sooner, because it looks like we are in the mass manufacturing stages, and if this console's being made, we are approaching the time when it should be revealed, when it will be coming out sometime early next year, and Nintendo is missing the boat a little bit in controlling the messaging here, but hopefully something will happen soon. And actually, this is me stepping in here during editing, we are getting some more information that seems to suggest that Nintendo probably will reveal something soon. I don't think it would be exactly because of the leaks, but likely they want to do things quickly because the leaks may continue to happen. Regardless though, we got images, we got specs, and that's what we're talking about today. But before going forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. So earlier this morning, the Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit posted this stuff regarding photos and the specs. And here they talk about the photos coming from Switch 2 factory prototypes. They were leaked on a Chinese website. When we go to the Chinese website, the images are now gone. They have been taken down. However, when we go to Video Games Chronicle, as posted by Andy Robinson, here he says, while the images are unverified, one source who has not seen the final Switch 2 console, but has been briefed on Nintendo's plans, told VGC that the Reddit images match what the company has told partners to expect from its design. So that bodes well for the imagery here. Now the specs don't have as much backing, however I will say that from what we're seeing of this information, it does actually match up to a lot of the manufacturing listings we've talked about in the past. So it all bodes pretty darn well. Now, when it comes to the images, keep in mind that these are for prototypes. And a lot of this is based off a 3D render. They took a shell, and it was a 3D modeling enthusiast that kind of reverse engineered, reverse designed the look of the prototype of the Switch 2. But there are also some photos as well, so let's dive into it. This is the Nintendo Switch 2. This is how it will apparently look. Got a nice big screen, minimal bezel, it's probably an 8-inch 1080p screen, and everything else looks pretty much about the same on the surface. I will note that the Joy-Cons do look a little bit more rounded, a little bit wider, and there is an additional button below the home button, as we have heard. What this is, I have some theories on it, we'll get into that in a bit. This next image here, we get to see the Joy-Con disconnected, and we see the mechanism here is different from how it used to be for Switch 1, where it would just slide on with the rails. This supports the leaks we've heard about the magnetic controller from Vandal and MobaPad. It looks like it connects in there. The SL and SR buttons are bigger. That's pretty interesting, but once it's all connected, this whole entire mechanism will not be visible. It'll be flush with the Switch 2. Here we see the right Joy-Con, we get a better look at that new button there. And I will say that while it's still pretty hard to make out, it does look circular, the design on the button. So I'm thinking one of two things. One, this is just one entire circle, and so maybe it's like a record button, and they're kind of changing around what the left button's going to be, or the left button will just be for pics, taking quick snapshots, and the record button will be for recording footage. Or that button might be more to do with potentially recording your voice, turning voice chat on and off, because maybe there will be voice chat integrated into this system this time around. I will say that from the specs, there is apparently a microphone, so it bodes well for that. Here we see the back of the Joy-Con, and there are some things to note here. We get a good look at the mechanism that is what we believe will be used to disengage the magnetic connection. So when you press this, you'll be able to take out the Joy-Con. It would be very similar to that smaller little black button we saw on the Joy-Con where you would press that so you could slide them off the rails. But this would be more pronounced, more obvious, maybe easier to press. And that's pretty much it. I've seen some concerns that it might get in the way, and I don't really see how it will, because keep in mind your fingers are going to go on the shoulder button here, right? your knuckle would go around here. Maybe could get kind of close, but as someone who finds the Joy-Cons are too small for his hands, they're too small for me personally, based off how I would hold the Joy-Cons, I wouldn't be concerned about hitting something like this. I think this will be totally fine, especially if the Joy-Cons are a little bit bigger than the Switch 1 Joy-Cons. We get to see the other side. It's pretty much the same thing. I guess we could talk about the shoulder button. We look at both. Like, there's a little amount of space here. It's probably not analog. It's probably digital, just like the Joy-Cons were for Switch 1. So it's a little disappointing, but maybe they do feel a little bit better compared to like the Switch Pro controller. That's a possibility. But yeah, they look pretty much about the same to me. Now, here we get a size comparison. Now, keep in mind, again, this is a prototype. This is an artistic interpretation of the prototype, I should say. And what we're looking at here, I don't even think is something that exists, like this smaller version, because it's using an OLED-shaped screen, but for what I believe is the size of a Switch 1. I think this is just intended to give us an understanding of the size difference between the Switch and the Switch 2, and it's pretty significant here. We can see that. We get a look at the back. Now with the back, you'll notice the kickstand. It's just like the OLED. Again, I'll point out, this is a prototype, an artistic interpretation of the prototype. It may be the case that the kickstand will be different, and I mention this because we've recently heard that the kickstand would be U-shaped, and this isn't U-shaped. So either A, this is just what it is, or B, it isn't. Either way, I don't think it really matters because the kickstand will be fine, but I kind of like the idea of the kickstand also working as potentially kind of like a handle. But we'll see. Hopefully the reveal is soon and we'll get some proper details. Again, a look at the back size comparisons there. There you can see this is clearly based off the Switch 1 design, and you can see the size difference there more obviously. Now, this is actually a very important image here because we get a good look at the bottom. We see the speakers, but we also see the indentations for like putting the Switch into the dock, just like it works for Switch 1, and the USB-C port. Seems pretty par for the course until we see the top side. Top side has a power button, has the shoulder buttons, that all looks pretty par for the course. The volume buttons, got an audio jack here it looks like, where we put the cartridges, that all makes sense. Got the whole heat vent there, everything makes tons of sense. There is a weird button here, maybe a light thing, so that is something I'm unsure of what's going on with that. It could just be related to screws or something, I'm not sure. But what is pretty obvious to me is that this is another USB-C port. So we have two USB-C ports, and I think this is a big deal because normally when you're using the Switch in tabletop mode, you can't just plug in a USB-C cord there because it wouldn't allow it to stand snugly on the floor. But if you have a port on the top side, you can charge it here and still go into tabletop mode. And this would also facilitate other possibilities where you can connect two different accessories to two different USB-C ports. There's a lot of possibilities there, and it could lead to some pretty cool things. Now here we have an actual photo of the prototype. These indentations here, we can see how this would fit inside the sides here. I will note that we can see the lights here, so this would be obscured when it's actually in the tablet, but that's kind of how it worked for Switch 1, so it wouldn't really be that much of a change. And that's pretty much all I have to say on this one. I guess we can see a little bit of the rounding here. So there you go. Now here we see an actual photo of the SL and SR buttons, and they're clearly bigger than the original Joy-Con ones, so I think this will make them a lot easier to press. So for whenever we play games with just a single Joy-Con, they might feel a lot better compared to how it felt for Switch 1. So I would say that's pretty good news. But now on to the specs. So for the specs, we don't have as much information supporting this. We don't have an article like from VGC, but it does match up with a lot of the manufacturing stuff we discussed in the past. Now from what we see here, this shipping list detail summary, it has the game console itself, the Joy-Cons, the dock. We don't know what this is. This is the CPU, GPU, SoC, but it's something custom, so we're not entirely sure what it is. But what we see here is pretty good stuff. 6GX2 dual channel LPDDR5X. This is essentially 12 gigabytes of RAM that's faster than the DDR5. It's got the 5X, so that's good. That's faster RAM. This is a good amount of RAM. This is what we wanted to see in the Switch 2 from what we thought was possible. Now here we also see the flash memory model. 256 gigabytes of internal storage, UFS 3.1. This means high speed storage there. This is good news. This means fast storage, fast loading potentially. Like, this is going to mean a fast Switch 2, which is exactly what we want to see. Here they mentioned the audio chip. There's going to be an NFC, which doesn't shock us, just like on the Switch 1. There will be a built-in microphone, as we discussed earlier. This could support the idea of having integrated voice chat on the system for when we're playing online with our games, unlike the really terrible mobile app they had for the whole Switch 1 setup. So hopefully that actually means something here. Looks like it. Dual cooling fans. So they don't have just one cooling fan, but two. Now, there was some speculation that maybe there would be a second fan in the dock. Maybe both fans are just going to be inside the Switch 2 itself, but how it will work, in portable mode, just one fan will be working, because they have to keep power consumption in mind. But when docked, there will be more power being used with the charger, and the clock speeds will go up, but because there are two cooling fans now on, they can handle the extra heat. Now, something else that's very interesting is that we're seeing support for HDMI 2.1 as opposed to 2.0 on Switch. This is a big deal because this means even higher resolution, so 4K is absolutely feasible, but also at a higher refresh rate, perhaps beyond 60 FPS, theoretically at least, and HDR support, dynamic HDR. So those are good things to see that will be available for Switch 2, if, of course, this is all legitimate. We also got the Gigabit Ethernet chip for the network chip. We have the microcontroller chip. We have the case model size, which we saw already the imagery giving us a good idea of the size. And then obviously we have the speakers. So there's some good things here. The ultimate takeaway people seem to be having from this is that it kind of supports what we've been thinking. In portable mode, the Switch 2 will be comparable to a PlayStation 4. But in docked mode, when they start to use those two fans, when they raise up the clock speeds, it will be significantly more powerful. It will be something between a PlayStation 4 Pro and an Xbox Series S. And with DLSS, that could make for an even bigger difference. So this is very promising stuff. This bodes very well for third-party support, I would say. Seeing good running games of like Call of Duty or Monster Hunter Wilds could be a reality. And the Nintendo games are going to look insane regardless, because Nintendo are masters of their hardware. But in terms of the console itself, bigger, more ergonomic Joy-Cons, I like that. The magnetic connections could be kind of fun. The improved size of the SL and SR buttons are going to be great for when we play with single Joy-Cons. Having an extra USB-C port, I think, is going to do wonders for a variety of things. And these are good things. Nothing's like mind-blowing, but it is all solid stuff. This is suggesting a significant improvement of the Switch. Now, with all this stuff leaking, this shows that mass manufacturing is absolutely happening, and Intel's going to give us info really soon. And actually, during this recording, something happened that I think would be good to point out. I don't know why my caps lock is on, but apparently Jeff Grubb posted this image, which is good to hear or see. This is the famous Mario behind a curtain reveal image for the NX, the Switch 1 from back in October of 2016. What this suggests? Well, it could suggest that Jeff Grubb is hinting or teasing or at least alluding to the idea that it's about time for that Switch 2 reveal. Could they announce it later today? Well, with Nintendo of America having not tweeted anything yet, and also this Sparking Zero event happening at 6:30 AM as opposed to 7 Pacific time tomorrow, I think there's a chance. But we'll see what actually happens. We at least have these very interesting leaks for Switch 2 that are giving us a decent understanding of what to expect here. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.